to provide any written material that will be read out by the delegation to the Secretariat. To facilitate this process and enable us to cover the full range of issues at hand, I would like to invite my colleagues and the distinguished members of the delegation to speak in a concise manner, giving due attention to the allocation of time. With this, I have the pleasure to give you the floor, Your Excellency, to deliver your opening statement. The delegation has 10 minutes. Thank you.
Señora Presidenta.
Madam Chair of the Committee for Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, distinguished experts, ladies and gentlemen who are also attending this meeting, I bring you cordial greetings. I'm here to represent the state of Peru, and it is a very great honour to participate in this constructive dialogue in order to confirm Peru's stout commitment to the respect and guarantee of human rights and the commitment of international undertakings which are enshrined in the Covenant of Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, as well as our commitment to the basic principles underpinning democracy. My name is Luis Fernando Domínguez-Vera. I am Director General for the Human Rights Unit, and I'm leading the delegation which will be answering the questions and issues that will be raised during this dialogue. I would like to start my statement by saying that, as our Constitution confirms, Peru is a democratic, social, independent and sovereign state, organised following the principle of the separation of powers, and one of its main duties is to guarantee the full enjoyment of human rights. Along these lines, Peru hopes that the outcome of this constructive dialogue will allow us to bring to the attention of the international community the progress that we've made in implementing the covenant and the extent to which it has been transposed into domestic law. In this respect, this state has come here to give you an idea of the good practice that has been in the country and to take note of what will be said during the dialogue. We will structure this dialogue into our presentation in two clusters. The first will give you an idea of the main progress in the state, whereas the second will reflect on challenges and opportunities.
There's no democracy
First of all,
here.
let me say that the COVID-19 pandemic was a very great challenge when it comes to the protection of economic, social and cultural rights.
There is
globally.
no democracy in
The
Peru.
state of Peru, as the main
It's a
guarantor
reaction.
of human rights and its people, adopted various activities to mitigate these effects. For example, we put in place a technical health standard establishing COVID-19 vaccination, which meant that between December 21 and August 24,
Where's the
we were
democracy
able
in
to
Peru?
provide
There's no
more than
democracy.
41,000, or rather 41 million COVID-19 vaccinations. We have a Learning at Home initiative which ensured ongoing education through accessible media
There's a
such
meeting
as television, radio and the internet.
in Switzerland.
And we've granted subsidies to
About human
homes,
rights, violation of
living
human
in
rights in
poverty,
Peru.
amongst others. We have excellent health coverage where 99.8% of inhabitants have health insurance cover. We have a comprehensive health insurance system, and of those
I'm going
registered in the system,
to put the translation of
15.4%
this video in.
are women and 49.6% men. We also have a social health insurance system where we have 49.3% women participants and 50.7% men. As regards the health insurance fund administration services, they cover 2.8% of inhabitants, and further schemes cover 1.9%. Through Law 32154, we authorise the comprehensive health insurance to also cover non-resident foreigners that have an HIV or TB diagnosis. To combat poverty, in 2022 we approved a national policy for development and social inclusion and development. Elderly persons living in extreme poverty, and we have a cooperation fund for development which ran activities in 573 towns, financing the implementation of development projects. We also have a national program called Together, which covers more than 800,000 homes that are given financial benefits. In order to reach people that live in remote areas, we implemented the platform of services, which has allowed 1.5 million of people in rural areas living in poverty, ensuring that there is easier availability of health services, also access to justice, access to identity documents, productive development, financial inclusion, education, risk management, amongst others. In order to ensure that state services are provided to people living in the remotest areas, we have implemented mobile platforms for social actions, which we call PIAS. These are Navy boats or aircrafts from the Air Force and the Army that bring state services to 235 communities that are very remote, where there are nearly 70,000 persons living in the departments of Loreto, Ucayali and Puno. These PIAS provided care to 235,000 users through 307 social action campaigns. We have 10 PIAS working in lake or river areas and further ones as well. In order to prevent forced labour, in 2023 we approved a new intersectoral protocol against forced labour, a key tool that ensures that public institutions can be guided in their actions to provide a comprehensive multisectoral response of cases of forced labour to prevent and eradicate child labour. Furthermore, with the aim of strengthening work to prevent gender violence, the Ministry of Health has put in place a program for couples counselling to promote healthy cohabitation, aiming to carry out advisory workshops, and in 2024, through these initiatives, more than 155,000 health professionals were trained. Now, relating to reducing child anemia, as part of our nutritional programs for pregnant women and children up to the age of 1, the health sector in 2024 was able to help 500,000 children under the age of 1, and 6.8 million home visits were carried out between February and November 2024. There were 94,000 plus pregnant women that were assisted in this way, and there were nearly 500,000 home visits carried out in 2024. In education, in order to reduce the education gap, we are putting in place sectoral educational policy with a focus on intercultural bilingual education. There's been 80% progress. We want to ensure that there is bilingual intercultural education from the very beginning of a child's time at school. In order to combat school dropout rates, since 2012 we are implementing solidarity routes, providing bicycles for children in rural areas. We also have river roads created in 28 in order to make the most of this in the areas of the Amazon. We've been able to benefit 90,000 students. When it comes to drinking water and sanitation, various strategies have been put in place to deal with the areas of weakness when it comes to access. The Ministry of Health and Sanitation has been putting in place large-scale projects on drinking water and sewage works. which will benefit 83,000 persons in Lima and Callao, and ensuring there is better access to these basic services. On the environment, Peru continues to be firmly committed to becoming more sustainable. In 2024, we approved 161 environmental management tools, which will make economic investment easier in areas such as mining,
it's like economical crisis here. There is no war, no jobs.
And health.
There's no.
This is an investment of more than $14 billion. We are also aiming to carry out prior consultation for indigenous peoples. There's a program that will be put in place with indigenous organizations. We have identified public services and will try and change situations of inequality and create social and economic development for this part of the population. We have an alert service against racism to try and guide our citizenry on what needs to be done to combat acts of discrimination, and we have a multilateral strategy for Peru without racism.
It's racism against Andean people.
We will also aim to build on the opportunity presented by us being here. We want to build a more balanced society where there is greater equality. We've recently adopted the multisectoral policy for 2040 on human rights, which focuses on our shared responsibility in promoting and protecting human rights. These commitments and efforts at a multisectoral level, looking forward to 2040, will lead to a great increase in the Equality Index and Non-Discrimination Index. So the state of Peru will continue to work to ensure there is democratic access and full exercise of the economic, social and cultural rights of all persons. And our goal will be to look forward to the national multisectoral human rights policy for 2040. We are certain that the efforts made across various sectors in the state to eradicate inequality and discrimination and the valuable dialogue with this committee will help us to effectively implement the Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights. Now, perhaps I can conclude this introductory statement by saying that I am here physically to present the report and present the delegation, but in Lima, as we speak, we have a multi-sectoral delegation following this dialogue, and they too will be ready to answer any questions.
Very much for this opening remarks, and I'm sure that we will be able to exchange in a constructive way, and we are sure that the quality of the answers that you will provide, bearing in mind the technical delegation that you just mentioned, will be of course important. So without further ado, I would like now to give the floor to the country rapporteur, Mr.
According to the delegation sitting there in Lima, and I heard that there might be sending you some answers in between. Let's see how it will work. Welcome to the timely submission of the fifth state report and the information presented therein. The answer to all list of issues came quite late, but it achieved that we could read it. Thanks for that also. And we know that you have been in several committees, Child Rights Committee and CERN recently, so we know that also. Thanks. I think areas where I would like to ask some questions. First, I will start with the national legal order, and we recognize the noteworthy that the Peruvian constitution covers economic, social, and cultural rights in an extraordinary, comprehensive manner. The question is, however, how intensively the covenant is implemented in the legal order of the state. Yeah? So maybe you can explain to us how often the covenant is really used in court rulings. Is there a program to train judges and law enforcement institutions on economic, social, cultural rights, and how does these rights influence your policy making in different policy areas, your institutions like spatial planning, land registration, and so far? You have a national human rights institution. Unfortunately, they didn't show up yesterday for our hearing, and they haven't sent in a report. So the question is, what is their mandate for economic, social, cultural rights? How many cases they are dealing with, what type of complaints they have in front of them. That would be interesting for us. Following the ruling handed down by the Constitutional Court in February 20, in connection with social protest, bearing in mind that such derogations should be invoked only in truly exceptional circumstances. According to several reports also from the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, the EU has been marked and continues to be marked by protests and the violent suppression of protesters, infringing inter alia upon their physical and psychological integrity, health and freedom of assembly. The reports conclude that there are reasonable grounds to believe that human rights violations have been committed in the context of these protests. These include right to life, physical integrity, liberty, judicial guarantees, peaceful assembly, and so on.
There's no
The
liberty.
question is, what do you do to reduce or stop the violence against protesters? And in reports delivered to us, we heard that the violence has led to the majority of Peruvians having fear to become politically active or to participate in social mobilization because of that atmosphere. How do you see the development? What are your plans to address it? Additionally, the State Party was criticized by the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights on the following